Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining me. I'm going to give us a few minutes for people to come in and join us. And in the meanwhile, I am going to introduce myself for those of you who are brand new to me, to Water Safety with Miss Dana, and to the Watching Initiative and the Wading Whales Water Safety Kits. I want to talk a little bit about my background and who I am, what qualifies me to talk on this topic of life jackets and flotation devices, and then how we got to the point of needing to have this conversation. So I have been teaching swimming lessons since 1988. I have been also since that time very focused on educating parents about water safety as well. I was first certified through the Red Cross in Vancouver, British Columbia, and I did that in 1987. And then when I moved to the United States in 2001, I went ahead and I got certified in the US as well. One certification was not equal to the other. So I currently hold a certification with Red Cross as a water safety instructor, as a lifeguard, and also with CPR, first aid, and AED training. I'm in the process of working on my lifeguard instructor certification training, as well as level 2 certification with a program out of Australia called Autism Swim. I currently live and teach swimming lessons in Roanoke, Virginia. I run the largest independent and solo instructor swim program in my area. I teach about 300 children a week, and I feel just incredibly blessed to get to do this job, to be impactful for so many children, but in the end, so many families. Over the last 18 months, I have been on a journey that has really focused me on reaching out to parents who live outside of this area, with water safety information, strategies, and tools that are helpful, impactful, and really implementable in teaching them how to keep their children safer in and around water. And during these past 18 months, I have visited about 750 daycares, preschools, day schools, as well as special learning schools, with information about water safety. And I was shocked, I guess, to find that exactly 0 of these schools had any information available. I saw posters for car safety, car seat safety, fall or spring pictures, T-ball signups, basketball clinics, all of those things. But there was absolutely nothing in any of these schools about water safety. I have watched the drowning rates rise, especially over the last 4 years, and seeing the response from my industry, the aquatics industry, and the drowning prevention community really kind of staying the same, not altering their message or the method in which they're reaching out with their message, I knew that I needed to create a platform to share what I have been teaching in my swim school for so many years, because I know that it works. It's worked for hundreds of families, and those are the ones that I've had the opportunity to work with face to face. Finding a way to reach out now to families that I don't have the opportunity to work face to face with has become really important to me. The definition of insanity is to continue to do what we've always done but expect different results. Drowning continues to be the number 1 cause of accidental death in children under 5. And, if I believe that if what the aquatics community and industry were doing was working, we would see those numbers drop. And that's just not what's happening. In fact, it's the opposite. It's up and up and up each year. There are states like Texas and Florida. They actually publish their statistics, and for people like myself that watch these statistics and are following the trends, those are really great resources for me to be able to share that information with you. It's not fun information, but it is information that I believe is really, really important. So In 2023, 99 children drowned in the state of Florida. 82 of those children were under the age of 5. In Texas, the number of fatalities was 90, with 58 of those children being under the age of 5. So the statistics say that for every one fatal drowning, there are 7 to 8 additional people seen in the ER for non-fatal drowning health concerns. So everything from totally good to irreversible damage to their body, yet these children still are living through that tragedy. So let's talk about current this year. As of April 2nd, in Florida, there have been 31 children who have fatally drowned. And in Texas, I believe there were 14, maybe 15, I think the statistics said. And in Florida, all of the drownings for this year, the entire 31 were all children under the age of 5. In Texas, I believe it was 11 of the 14 or 15 that were that have fatally passed already this year. So you can see these numbers are incredibly high. They're on the rise. We haven't even hit summer months yet, and this is already what these two states are dealing with. And really, no matter what state you're in, drownings are taking place. You may not hear about them, but they're there, and it is my goal to share information that is actionable and provide families with strategies so that they can turn around, implement those in their families, and we can begin to see drowning numbers decline. So one of the things that I've created over the last 18 months is something called the Watching Initiative. And if you're not familiar with it, you can head over to watersafetywithmissdana.com and you can read all about what the Watching Initiative is. But it is, so each letter in the word watching has a strategy attached to it that begins to help parents think differently and implement differently water safety strategies. So it's the H strategy that we're going to talk about this evening. The H strategy is to have appropriate life jackets and flotation devices available for uncontrolled water environments. So why uncontrolled? Well, that's really what flotation devices, life jackets, were created for. For me, uncontrolled water environments are like lakes and ponds, rivers, oceans, water environments where you may not be able to see the bottom. That would also include being on all docks and in all boats, and then activities such as snorkeling, jet skiing, water skiing, paddleboarding. All of those things require a flotation device, a life jacket. And there may be others that I've missed, and you can add yours to the list, but those ones are my non-negotiables. So in those situations, life jackets must be worn by everyone, even adults, because those are the things that are going to keep us safe. So due to the fact that within my swim school, the number one most asked question I get is, what life jacket or flotation device do you recommend for my child? And rather than answer each person individually, I thought, let's just do an event where people can tap into this and I can share this information once with you all and then have it available to refer back to down the way. So before I ever answer that question for families, the question I ask them first is, what will you be using this device for? Or where will you be primarily using this device? So life jackets and flotation devices are designed for boats and the uncontrolled water environments that I mentioned. They are not intended or approved to be worn in pools at all, never mind for hours and hours on end that so many children are in them, in a community pool or a backyard pool, any of those places. So keeping that fact in mind, let's get started on kind of going through what these big questions are. So when buying a device for your child, I know probably 10 out of 10 people would say that they will be buying a device that is Coast Guard approved. That has been the recommendation, and so that is what they are looking for. But what does that actually mean, something that is Coast Guard approved? Or what does that all entail? Well, the long and short of it is that being Coast Guard approved means that the device you are using on your child has been approved for them to be worn on a boat. It means that if you are stopped on the water by a Coast Guard and your child's wearing this device, you will not get a citation. So that's it. It's approved to be worn on a boat. Yet most parents who are buying devices are not buying them for that purpose. They're buying them to ensure their child's safety in the water, and more often than not, the water environment seems to be a pool. And we'll come back and visit that fact a little bit later. So first I want to talk about what the Coast Guard is actually approving. What does that stamp mean? The Coast Guard itself does not review a device design, the construction, or the materials. They also do not test the systems of a device. The Coast Guard requires that a specific test with a minimum performance criteria happen before they give their approval. But they're not actually doing the tests. So if they're not, who is? The product testing, again, from the Coast Guard website, product testing must be performed by a Coast Guard accepted or recognized independent laboratory. So hopefully that's clear to you. The Coast Guard establishes what tests need to be run on devices, as well as minimum performance criteria to receive their approval, but they don't actually run those tests. So the next logical question is, who does? Who runs the tests? In most cases, it's a company called Underwriters Laboratory. And I'm going to show you that on life jackets, and I've got lots here to show you today, on the inside of the panel of your life jacket, you see all kinds of things, but right here is a little icon and it says UL. So that is the sign that Underwriters Laboratory has run the tests on this one specific device. So Underwriters Laboratory approves the design, they approve how the life jackets are put together, and then they do technical testing for buoyancy, based on how much weight, what's going to happen. So they basically say that a specific life jacket is designed to keep a certain person based on their weight afloat in certain water circumstances, so from calm waters to extremely rough sea waters, and then for a certain amount of time. They do not test the devices in water environments using a child. They can't do that. I don't think any parents would allow that to happen. So the tests are scientific in nature only. So kind of best case scenario, if all the things work together well, we're going to have a good outcome. So what is the Coast Guard's actual involvement in this entire process? The Coast Guard approves the laboratory's test. So that all the tests are run, they get it. If it meets all of their standards and their criteria, it gets the stamp of the Coast Guard approval. So what does that mean? It just means it's Coast Guard approved, but it has nothing to do with how safe your child will be in the water. The Coast Guard approval provides zero guarantees or promises that these devices will keep your child safe in the water, especially in the manner in which most of these devices are being used. I was really fortunate to connect with the educator for the Boat US Foundation, and she was really, really helpful in helping me understand all of this and hopefully putting it into a way that helps you understand it as well. The Coast Guard approval does not mean that it has been evaluated to be a swim aid or something that your child should be using as they're learning to swim. And again, it has absolutely not been evaluated for a controlled water environment like a pool. So for those families who do spend time on boats or in uncontrolled water environments and need life jackets, how do you know which one to use? So if you have your child's life jacket handy, grab it. But if not, that's okay. I've got a bunch of jackets that I'm going to show you and walk you through so that you know what you're looking for when you either reevaluate the life jacket you have or when you're going out to purchase a new life jacket. So all of the following information, the next little bit that I'm going to go through, comes from the U.S. Coast Guard boating.org. It's their website. It's easy to print off and to be able to go through. Oh, and if you want the information, you can just reach out and I'll be happy to send you what I've put together as well. So life jackets are separated into 3 broad categories for children based on weight. The infant life jackets are for less than 33 pounds. A child life jacket is for 33 to 55 pounds, and a youth is for 55 to 88 pounds. So that's how those are broken out. And again, on each of the life jackets, you'll be able to find the space where it says what the weight recommendations are. That will be on any life jacket that you are getting, again, that's Coast Guard approved. There are 2 main classes of PFDs, or personal flotation devices. The first one are what we'll call life jackets, and those are ones that provide face-up support regardless of the physical conditions in the water and of your child. And the other is a buoyancy aid, and those are the ones that require the user to make swimming movements to position their face out of the water. So an unconscious person would not benefit from a buoyancy aid. They're going to benefit from a true life jacket. And now, again, more statistics and more numbers. There are 5 basic types of life jackets, but we're only going to discuss 3 of them. Type 1, Type 2, and Type 3. There is also Type 4 and 5, but those are not ones that we need to be talking about, especially where children are involved. So a Type 1 device has the greatest buoyancy and will turn most unconscious persons in the water from a face-down position to a face-up position so that they can breathe, which increases their chance of survival. A Type 2 device is also intended to turn a wearer from a face down to face up position so that their respirations are not impeded. It's not as for sure as a Type 1, but in most cases it should do that for wearers. A Type 3 device is intended to support a conscious person in the water in an upright position. So this type of device will not, under any circumstances, roll somebody from a face down to a face up position. And that is something that I want you to kind of tuck away, because that's a really, really important fact as we're going through all of this information. On some devices, you may see numbers like 50 or 70, and those are also comparable to Type 1, Type 2, Type 3 devices. And rather than go into that more, like I said, I'm happy to share that information with you in a document and answer any questions that you may have about that, because it is a lot of numbers and it's a lot of variables, and I really want to kind of dive into now some of the more detailed parts of a device that I know a lot of parents are not necessarily looking for. You don't know to be looking for them. So inside our life jackets, there are pictographs. And I want to show you up close what the most important one is. It is this one. It's a C with a line through it. And what that one pictograph means is that that is not a device that will roll your child from front to back. So if that is really why we're wearing a device to keep our children the most safe, we want to be able to choose a device, a type 1 or a type 2 device. A type 3, 4, 5 will not do that. So, when you buy a car seat for your child, you do all the homework, and you know which way the seat should face and what weight it should be, facing a certain direction, and you've read all the reviews, and you've asked your online communities what they're using and what the best ones are. And I really, truly feel that we need to be doing the same kind of due diligence when choosing a life jacket or a personal flotation device for our children. Again, please remember that the number one cause of accidental death in the United States for children under 5 is drowning. It's not car accidents. So putting those two things, one is as important as the other, especially for families who are spending a lot of time around water. So now we need to focus on what makes a life jacket a good fit for your child, because in the end, every child needs a life jacket if they're going to be in uncontrolled water or on a boat. Children come in all different shapes and sizes, and when I spoke with Amanda at Boat US Foundation, first of all, they have a wonderful pictograph, or a PFD, I guess it is, that we can have access to that describes how to fit a life jacket. But, in the end, her advice was that the weight limit on a life jacket is less critical than how it fits on your child. We don't want to ignore the weight limits, but how it fits and the comfortableness of it for your child is really got to be number one. So making sure that when they wear it, it's not riding up against their ears, or that it's too tight, it's too small, it's all of those things. We want to make sure we are getting the right fit for them. Again, buying a life jacket for your child that will be a level or a type 1 or type 2, so that it will roll them over if that situation ever arose. You also need to test it in the water to see if it works properly. Trying it on in Target is great, but in the end, you've got to put it in the water to see how the device works on your child's body, and if it does what it's supposed to do. Buy for right now. Don't buy for them to grow into it, or hope to get 2 or 3 seasons out of it. You might, but you also might not. Buy for this season right now. And finally, don't plan on keeping the same life jacket around for forever, or passing it along to people, because they get frayed, they wear out, the fabric gets bleached in the sun, or if we are using them in a pool, the chlorine is not friendly to the materials that these things are made of. So let's go back to that car seat analogy and think about it the same way. We don't buy a car seat for where our children are going to be in, when they're 3. We buy a car seat for where they are as an infant when we first bring them home from the hospital. So, consider all of those things as you are looking to purchase a life jacket for your child. So we just answered a whole bunch of questions, all stemming from that one question: it must be Coast Guard approved, or what does that mean? And let's make that information be more accessible. So hopefully that answers those questions, and now you know why you need to get a Coast Guard approved life jacket, but then what it means for your child, and how to purchase the right one for your child. And so now that kind of leads us into the reason why I'm sure many of you have tapped into this today. Those are the fact-based answers for life jackets. There is just a lot of controversy surrounding life jackets and flotation devices, and I want to address some of those for you as well, so that some of the unknowns or some of the rumors can be put aside, and again, you can begin to make the best decision for your child and what is the best thing for your family. So I'm going to address three questions that I get asked often. The first one is, always something along the lines of, I read an article or I saw a social media post that puddle jumpers are dangerous and unsafe and could cause my child to drown. Is this true? The second question is, can flotation devices keep my child from learning to swim or impede their progress if they are in swimming lessons? The third question is, how can I keep my kids safe when and if we are in water and they outnumber me? The fourth question is, and we're not going to really talk about it because we already have, are flotation devices approved for use in pools? And we've already answered that, and it's a big no to that. So to answer these three questions, I'm going to share with you what I know to be true as a swim instructor with 36 years of experience. I'm also going to share with you my experiences as a mom who has had 3 children, or in 2005 I had 3 children under the age of 5, but I only had 2 hands and 2 eyes. And, I know that there will be people who will hear this information and maybe not agree with what I'm saying, and that's okay, because everybody has their own personal experiences. It is not my intent to upset or anger anyone. My intent is to truly provide information that is relevant and important so that families can decide what is best for them. So let's go. Question number 1. I read an article that puddle jumpers are unsafe. Can it cause my child to drown? So let's talk about it. And I've got 2 different ones. One is brand name, one is off-brand, or a different brand, I guess. So these devices that have arm floaties and buckles across their chest, arm floaties afloat across their chest and then buckles in the back, are a type 3 device. Remember, a type 3 device will not roll your child over from front to back. They will hold them in a vertical position with their head up and their feet down. All right, so this device here, which looks like a really great life jacket, and is a really great life jacket, is also a type 3 flotation device. It has chest buckles, it has leg buckles, it has armholes rather than flotation or floaties for their arms. But this device also will not roll a child from a face down to a face up position. So in my world of being a swim instructor, that up and down vertical position is called the drowning position. So if your child is used to being in a type 3 flotation device, any type 3 flotation device, not just one kind or another, any of them, all of the time, and they end up in water without that device on, they will most likely go into a vertical position, head up and feet down, because that's what their muscle memory will recall. If they don't know that once they're down underwater, they need to kick to resurface, and then once they're on the surface to be able to roll onto their back to get a breath, and have that happen within 30 seconds, the chances of them being in a drowning accident are increased. So this vertical position is what a type 3 device will teach your child's body. All type 3. People villainize one type of device more than the others, but all of them will hold your child in that body position. The issue is not with the type of device, it's how that device is being used. Type 3 devices are, in my opinion, being overused and actually inappropriately used. What has been happening with the creation of these devices, that are supposedly great to keep a child safe in water because they are Coast Guard approved. Parents put them on their children, and then parents give them absolutely inappropriate independence to navigate water on their own terms. When I see a child in the water with a flotation device on, my immediate thought is that they are not a safe and independent swimmer. That's why they're wearing them. And knowing that, I see them in the water often without an adult also in the water with them. Maybe sitting on the edge of the pool, maybe sitting in a chair, supervising, or kind of being on their phone and observing what's going on. I see children jumping in the water and then getting out, jump in, out, in, out, and the adults are not involved in this process. They haven't received permission from an adult that's out of the water, and if there is an adult in the water, they're not receiving an invitation to jump in. So that teaches a child that they are in control of their situation and they kind of come and go as they please, which is not what we want our children to be thinking when they are in and around water. For some reason, and maybe one day I'll get to the bottom of it, but right now it's still an unknown for me, when a child is wearing a flotation device, it seems that parents become less vigilant and really sometimes more careless around water than so many other environments that they have their children in. Because I think they think the device is helping their child to swim and that they are safe in that device. It is because of those factors that wearing a life jacket or a type 3 life jacket of any kind can make a child more susceptible to a drowning accident. Let me kind of give you some different scenarios to make you think about this a little differently. No parent that I know would ever allow their 3-year-old to stand at the stove and stir dinner while they sat nearby and scrolled through their phone. That just would never happen. No parent that I know would put a vest on their 2-year-old and allow them unrestricted access to the playground while they sat on a park bench with some friends and visited with them, glancing over to make sure that everything was okay. That just doesn't happen. Parents would not put their child into the seat of a cart at Target and then walk 2 aisles over to shop for something else, leaving their child unattended in that. Those things just don't happen. And I know as I'm saying it, you're like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And it is. It's crazy. But what seems to happen around a pool is that parents are putting a device on their child and they're letting them get away from them. They're letting them be in water without them also being in the water with them. And they are sitting on the edge of the pool supervising, not actually engaged in watching their child. So the question, can a puddle jumper, or now you need to insert any type 3 device. So again, when you look on the inside of the device, it will say what type it is. Can that cause my child to drown? I believe the answer to that is no. A device by itself cannot cause a child to drown. It can be a huge factor in a water accident happening, absolutely no question. But there are so many factors at play when a water accident happens. But I do not feel that a device can be held accountable as the sole reason for any outcome. Don't get me wrong, the puddle jumper is probably my least favorite device, but it has more to do with the buckles that are on the back of the device. I've seen many a child get stuck on a lane line, the buckles, and in their attempt to free themselves from that, again, a lane line has buoys on it that rotate. As they struggle to get unstuck, they actually roll themselves face down in the water and end up in a really difficult situation. So A type 3 life jacket will most likely hold your child's body in an up and down vertical position. And, yes, that's what you want if, your child has to jump off the dock into uncontrolled water, or if you all had to jump off the boat in an emergency into uncontrolled water. Yes, we want them to be in that position. But they're only going to be in that position for a few minutes. They're not going to be swimming around with it on for hours and hours on end in a pool, which, a controlled water environment. So that leads directly to the second question about, can a flotation device keep a child from learning how to swim or impede their progress if they are already learning how to swim, either in swim lessons or just being in the water consistently with their parents? So my answer to that is that I have never experienced being unable to teach a child how to float or how to swim if they have worn a device. But I have experienced working with children and seeing their progress be impeded or even skill regression because they were wearing a device all the time. After one summer, I hadn't seen a child since, say, the beginning of June, and they came back to lessons in September, I knew right away by watching how they were in the water that they had probably worn some kind of a flotation device the majority of the time that they were in the water. So their skills regressed. We had to work through a few things, and then we get them back to where they should be. So, just know that if you've got your child in lessons and you're paying the money for that, and you put a device on your child all the time, it may very well keep them from progressing as quickly as you would like them to be, or if there's a long break in lessons, you may find that we've regressed a little bit and there are some skills that we need to go back and work on because the device keeps children in that up and down position. And the other thing is, when they are in a device, they are not really swimming at all. They're not swimming. The device is doing all of the work for them. It holds them up, and it can give a child the sense of that, oh, I'm swimming. But, in reality, they really, really are not swimming. That if they went into water without that device on, they're not going to swim. Most likely they will sink. So every day in swim lessons, when I'm working with my students, we're working in horizontal body positions. On their back, it's a back float, which is, the one skill that children need to know to be able to save their own life, from in the water to being able to roll on their back and get air. And also front floats, where they are working this way. Their head is never not in this position. And we're not working on a head up and feet down, kind of like dog paddle. I always say to my swimmers, parents, when you watch a child or when you watch a dog swim, a lot of times they're frantic. It's not a comfortable position for them to be in. Same for our children. We don't want them to be head up, feet down, doing dog paddle. We want them to be able to have that skill base of being able to roll over onto their back. Those are things to consider when you're deciding what device to get, and again, how much your child needs to be in that device. No matter how many children you have at the pool, how do you balance keeping them safe? If you're not, no child wants to be held all the time, no parent wants to hold a child all the time. How do you keep them safe and keep them from regressing on their skills, or help them move forward in learning the skills? If we're saying no devices, how do we keep them all safe? So at this point, I want to speak to you as both the swim instructor, and that part of me will be in direct conflict with the mom that I was in the summer of 2005 and 2006 with 3 little ones under the age of 5. The swim instructor in me wants to say no flotation devices ever when you're in the pool. That's what I want to say. the mom in me that is a swim instructor and a water safety educator knows the challenges that not using any devices ever can present for parents with one child or parents with multiple children, like I had. There are many swim instructors and many anti-flotation devices in the pool advocates in the world who will probably absolutely disagree with some of my next statements, but that's okay. My children wore flotation devices in a pool, and I'm really not 1,000% against a child wearing a flotation device in a pool and I'll share with you what the ifs are. If they are not an independent swimmer, if they do not have a skill set to save their own life, if the water is deep and they cannot touch the bottom, if they don't have a pool where there are steps or stairs for them to play on, and if your child does not want to be held all the time and you as a parent don't want to spend 4 or 5 hours at the pool holding your child. There is a very, very, very big but that is coming, so please, hear me out before you make a judgment on the fact that I am not against flotation devices. Over the years, I have come to the conclusion that at this point, telling parents to never put their child in a device, it's not working. Parents are not listening. They're not understanding the whys and the why nots about it. Also telling parents that the only way to keep their child safe around water is to register them for swim lessons is not working. And really, that's not a feasible reason for many, many families. And I'm going to give you 3 of the reasons why that I hear all the time. First of all, there are not enough trained, certified instructors to handle the amount of people that already want swim lessons right now. Never mind saying everybody should have swim lessons. Nobody should ever not go down that path. There's just not enough instructors. I run at maximum capacity, and I'm sure the other programs in my community also do. And I would venture a guess we're maybe teaching a maximum of 15 or 20% of the children that are under age 5 in our community. So to say everybody must have swim lessons in order to be safe, that's something that I just don't think at this point is really going to be attainable. Second, for a lot of families, swim lessons are not a viable option for reasons like, the timing or that they don't have access to a pool. But the biggest one is cost. That, effective swim lessons can be an expensive investment for some families, and they just don't have that. And I know that there are scholarships available. Many of the organizations out there, the drowning prevention organizations, offer scholarships. But in the end, there's not enough scholarships for all the children that might need those as well. So if the demand is too high and the availability is low, what do we do with those families? What do we offer them? And third is that for some families, swim lessons is just not a priority. It's just not something that they think about being a part of their everyday life, and that may never change for those families. So to continue to say it's all or nothing, I can't get on board with that anymore. And I want to provide now kind of some middle ground, knowing that I'm not saying yes, flotation devices all the time, and I'm not saying no flotation devices ever. I'm going to provide you with some middle ground. This is the middle ground that I used with my own children, and it is the middle ground that I educate my parents in my program with. But along with these guidelines is the information that I shared with you about what wearing a device can do. I don't want anybody to say, "Oh, I didn't know that was part of it." It is. I'll give you all the information, and then you can make the best choice for your family. So I've got 5 guidelines. And again, I have this in a document, and I'll be more than happy to send that to you if it is something that you like. First and foremost, that your child will always be given an invitation from an adult to enter the water. Again, since your child is in need of a flotation device, to me, that means that they are not safe and independent swimmers. That's why they're wearing the device. And since that is the case, your child should never, ever be in water on their own. Never. If they are allowed in water on their own once, what's to keep them from understanding that in that situation it was fine, but in the next situation it's not going to be okay? Sometimes when children wear flotation devices, they feel like they are in charge of the water. They come and go as they please. They don't have to ask for permission or wait for an invitation. And, that can be the recipe for disaster, especially if there is that one time that they forget that they don't have their device on, and they end up in the pool without you knowing that they were heading to the water. So the invitation piece of this is incredibly important. Children do not ever enter a body of water without an invitation from a parent who is already in that body of water. Second, they must spend as much time out of the device as they do in one. The more time they spend in one, the more likely their muscle memory will be in that up and down position. We want their muscles to remember, oh yeah, when I'm in the water without a device, I'm working to be able to roll over onto my back, to be able to get air. And remembering that right now, I believe that devices are being overused or even exclusively used. We need to be aware of the time difference that we are working with our children. Be it 10 minutes in, 10 minutes out, 15 minutes in, 15 minutes out, whatever works best for your family. But the longer the duration that they are in a device for, the more hardened their muscle memory is going to become in that up and down position. So the third guideline is that anytime you are in a controlled water environment, so a pool, a water park, a backyard pool situation, and your child can touch the bottom of the pool, allow them the opportunity to be in water without a device on. Learning how their body acts in water without a device it's critically important. And since you will be right there with them within arm's reach, they should feel really safe to begin to explore how that feels and how that works. If you have access to a kiddie pool and you've got a toddler where the water hits up to here, you walk behind them, let them walk. Let them fall down underwater and you pick them up and put them back on their feet. Or if you are trained or knowledgeable in being able to roll them over onto their back, that's an even better way to work with that kind of a situation. But when they can touch the bottom on stairs, the bottom of the pool is not above their head, allow your children that opportunity to explore water with you right there with them, and they can figure out how their body works. It's also the fourth guideline is allow your children the opportunity to work on their where there's water, I will wait strategy, and their skill. Sitting on the side of the pool with their waiting mat when they don't want you to hold them, or you need a break from holding them and it's not time for them to be back in a device. So for those of you who have not heard about the where there's water, I will wait strategy, or the waiting mats, again, just head over to the website, and all of that information will be there. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. But it's okay to ask your children to wait. It's okay to say it's time to sit up on the side of the pool and I'm going to talk to my friend here and we're going to have a little bit of adult time while you wait for us to be ready. It's okay to take your children out of the pool and have them wait up on a chair until you're ready to go back into the pool. The word wait is a really, really powerful word for our children, and I encourage you, in fact, I want to empower you to use it, especially when you have your child around water. And so finally, the final guideline, and for me, this is the most important. This is the absolute non-negotiable guideline at any point in time. You will never allow your child to jump into water with a device on. And I'm going to show you why using my little assistant here. When a child jumps into the water and they go down in this position, they stay down in that position because they are used to the device doing the work to pop them back up. So, if based on the weight of your child and the height from which they're jumping can determine, how far down in the water that they go. And if they don't know to come back up, that they have to work on that because they've had a device on all the time, that is where we run into drowning situations. Right on the side of the pool usually is where that's going to happen. So when your child jumps into the pool over and over and over again with a device on, they are accustomed to that device just bringing them back to the top of water over and over and over again. They don't understand that it's the device that's doing that it has nothing to do with their body helping